Sir, it's 11:05. So with your permission, we will start the proceedings.
Yes, Lakshmi. That would be better. I think people will be joining us. I think we'll go ahead with that.
Sure. Nagadarji, shall we start the program?
Yes, ma'am. Shall we start or?
No, we will start, sir.
Okay.
Very good morning, everyone. I take this pleasure to invite all the Executive Council and Central Council members of All India Drugs Control Officers Confederation and the drug regulatory officials, both from the State Drug Control Department and the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, CDSCO, and the friends from the industry and academia. Pleasure to welcome you all for the 34th webinar of All India Drugs Control Officers Confederation, AIDCOC Training Academy on the digital tools for the regulatory and quality compliance. Today we have with us Mr. Ravichandra Nagadar, Founding Director and Chief Executive Officer of Moto Systems Private Limited. We are so honored and privileged to have you with us, sir, for the exciting webinar. And there is no doubt in saying that today we are all living in the digital era, wherein every activity of our day-to-day life goes without any digital intervention, be it a financial transaction, be it a healthcare emergencies or healthcare infrastructure or records or whatever the component that we are dealing in the day-to-day life. So it is one or the other linked to the digital application. And so much thankful to the technological interventions made by the scientists, especially from the Indian institutions, where we are the leading provider of the services in terms of a software. And the pharma and the software are the two important exporting segments from the Indian industry. And so much thankful to have the today's topic, having these digital tools and the digital intervention in the pharma space, wherein how could these technologies could help not only the regulators and the industry, and also to the consumer, who is very much need to be informed on the kind of a quality of the product. And as we all know that as the industry is progressing well ahead in the same direction, and even the regulatory agencies are also taking the similar intervention in upgrading their systems and practices. And even the State Drug Control Administration of several states, be it Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Gujarat, and Karnataka, they already have a systems in place for the online modules for the processing of the applications. And recently, CDSCO has also come up with the ONDLS software for the digitalization of the entire application process of different segments of the applications. And also, I'm so happy to just once again reiterate about the recent intervention by the government in terms of making the awareness to the consumers regarding the quality of the product, or you call it as a right source of the product, the QR code implementation, both on the APIs as well as the formulation, though the dates of implementation of these concepts are at a different points of time. So it clearly gives a message that the government is going in the same direction what the industry and the consumers are looking at. So with that brief intro, I would like to invite our Secretary General, Rajabhanu sir, Secretary General for All India Drug Control Officers Confederation, for his introductory remarks.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi, for the nice introduction about the topic. And I'm sure you will be introducing the speaker, our guest speaker, today's speaker, Mr. Ravichandra ji, in a few minutes from now to the August gathering. So welcome you, sir. On behalf of All India Drugs Control Officers Confederation, I'm Secretary General in charge. I'll take this opportunity to welcome you and all our Central Council member, EC members, and the friends from regulatory of both state as well as central. And we have industry friends and also from academia. As rightly said by Lakshmi, I think we are in an era we have this is a revolution. I mean, a digital revolution, as we have already. Of course, the present generation is not aware of the previous revolutions like industry revolution, the other revolutions and all. Now it is a digital revolution. We are in that era, in fact. And I'll take the cue from the last sentence of Lakshmi. What she said is that the QR code, which will be realizing from August 2023, if I'm right. Is it so, Lakshmi? Yeah.
Yeah, that's for the formulation,
Yeah,
sir. Of
yeah.
course,
So
for
that's the
API, it is
formulations.
from 1st of
APIs is already
January.
there, and for formulations, so and so, so and so, for QR codes and all. So going backward integration from that, I think if we want to track the product in that way, so you need to have something in back end at the place where you have been manufacturing. I think in that sense, so the expectations from the regulatory, expectations from the policymakers, expectations from the consumer is in such a way that everything has to be is to be recorded digitally. It should be maintained digitally. It should be available in such a transparent manner that all those things which are been happening at a manufacturing sector, at a manufacturing level, they should be at a contemporaneous recording. It's not that something has happened and you will be recording at a later date. So it's sort of an IoTs and all should be in place and all. I think the industry is already geared up to that kind of a level. And I'm sure Mr. Ravi will be, with his rich experience of 18 years in various pharma sector and all, having his knowledge with respect to QA and other aspects. Definitely, he'll be dealing with this topic very aptly with all his rich experience in this field, where the digital connect is there with respect to the regulatory compliance, and as well as how it will be really useful both for the industry and other stakeholders in the entire the supply chain as well as the product life cycle. And that will give the kind of the confidence for both the consumer as well as the regulatory who is dealing with, and so is with the industry which is actually dealing with this one. And the kind of challenges are some kind of bottlenecks. There can be misconceptions in adapting this kind of technologies and all. I think this all will be dealt. I think a lot of acronyms will come in place. I think there will be Ravi will be rightly trying to tell each and aspect of that, and the cost aspect of it also, which will be helping the. I think Lakshmi will try to deal with the kind of industry which they are helping from Farm Excel. And today we could not able to be on the line of our Honorary Director General Ravi Bhaskar, who is the DG of Farm Excel, and our advisor Sri S.W. Deshpande ji. I think if they are in somewhere, if they can also join us at any moment also, sir. If not, otherwise, very greetings from them also to you, sir. And over to Lakshmi for introduction of our guest speaker, Mr. Ravichandra ji, and then the topic to the August gathering. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And the introductory remarks by the Secretary General and a mentor for most of our colleagues is certainly a big boost for the start of this webinar. And with that, I just take a couple of minutes for introducing the guest speaker of the today's webinar, Mr. Ravichandra Nagadhar Penmetsa. He is a life science graduate from the Andhra University, and I believe many of the founders of Adcock are also from the same University of Andhra University. And so
great alumni, yes.
Yes. And Mr. Nagdar had rich experience of almost 18 years in the pharma industry, and he has worked with several reputed institutions like Dr. Reddy's, wherein he dealt with not just with the production and the documentation, and also he has rich experience in the quality assurance, and with so much passion towards the implementation of CGMP and also improving the quality standards of the life cycle sector. He has integrated the software technology tools into the pharmaceutical operations or the pharma related aspects, and come up with an idea of this Moto Systems Private Limited, wherein he is the founder, director, and chief executive officer for this institution, and offering a lot of technological solutions required very much for the pharma industry. So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Nagadhar for his presentation, and we are so pleased and honored to have you as a speaker for today's program. Welcome you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Good morning to one and all. First of all, my sincere thanks to Sri Uday Bhaskar Garu, Director General of Pharmexcel, for giving me, this kind of, great opportunity to speak in front of you. And Madam Lakshmi Prasanna Garu, Sri Rajabhanu sir, and respected dignitaries and officers of Drug Control Department, EDCOC Training Academy, and officials from Pharmexcel, friends from all over the industry, and my colleagues. So a warm welcome to everyone. It's my pleasure being a part of this great event today, and I'm very much impressed with the kind you gave the introduction about myself. I could not give myself that much, but ma'am explained in very well manner. I'm really pleased to be part of this presentation today. So nothing to introduce myself again. All you know that I am the founder director of Motor Systems. My passion is to towards making pharma digital, pharma paperless. That was the aim when I started my business in 2013. My previous experience speaks about pharma. I worked with Dr. Reddy's in manufacturing and quality. And then I came out to turn myself as entrepreneur, and I wanted to start my business. Having this kind of rich experience in pharma, I don't want to leave that expertise. So I wanted to transform companies into a digital platform. How best I can help the industry. So I studied a lot, and I did my R&D. What best solutions we can bring into pharma. So in that sense, my digital experience in all these years, and the overall experience of mine is around 26 years, 6 years of experience in this particular field. So coming to Motor Systems, the Motor Systems is into applications development, exclusively designing applications for pharma and life sciences. So we have our unique product brand called GMP Pro. So there is a product brand, and there are many applications which are currently available in the market, like for pharma operations, right from materials procurement till end product delivery. There are many applications are already developed by various providers. So it covers the material management, production processes, testing activities, and the quality engineering, document management, training, audit management. So there are many other functions are also well covered with the digital applications, as I'm saying. So that is the one about our company. Then coming to today's subject, I would like to talk about the importance of digital tools and how how these tools enable quality, regulatory, and compliance in terms of pharmaceutical and life sciences industries. So I'd like to share my screen. Just give me a second. I just want to share my screen. Can anyone, can all of you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's visible, sir. And just a small request, if you could slightly increase the volume or be close to the system, it's audible, but we feel the volume is little low. Probably if you could just close to the mic, that would really help the audience to
Just give it. Just
hear in a better way. Yeah.
Ma'am, is it clear now? Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Yeah. the today's subject is like, I'd like to talk about digital tools enabling regulatory and quality compliance. How these tools helping industry, So I'd like to talk about the contents like the industry perspective. So what is the problem in the current industry, and what is the solution, and what are all advantages we have, and what are the barriers to implement digital tools, and what are the options, various options we have available with this kind of digital applications for pharma, exclusively for pharma and life sciences, and how these applications help the industry in terms of quality and compliance, and what are all the benefits from these digital revolution, and what are the steps to follow, implement any kind of digital application. What are the steps we need to ensure that an application is properly installed and implemented, and what are the interfaces? Usually, some examples of interfaces I can show, and what are the regulations enforced for a good system implementation. So, like 21 CFR Part 11 compliance and CSP, CSA. There are many other regulations also we have. So we talk about them, and finally there is a session for some kind of questions from the audience. So in that way we can continue. So first of all, when we talk about the industry perspective, if you see the COVID pandemic time, many healthcare companies have struggled a lot to maintain their production lines on continuation mode, and all we know that pharma licenses are very highly regulated industries, and the people's health is paramount in this particular space. But how we can ensure people's health is safe and secure? So it always depends on the policies what we design, and the practices how we follow, and the people how they are dedicated to these work cultures. So these are all factors improvising quality and consistency in the operations. When we talk about the quality and compliance, so to understand these terms are very simple. So when we ensure the practices are well defined, and the policies are well defined, practices are well followed by all the members, and the people are fair and transparent. So if you understand in that sense, the quality compliance terms are very easy to understand. So coming to the other topics like, See, nowadays global regulatory agencies, they are tirelessly working to strengthen the safety and security of patients, and pharma and life science companies across the globe, they are continuously under pressure to maintain the standards. Time to time, they have to adopt the changes from the various regulatory agencies, and they have to implement them in well manner. So in order to meet these expectations of global regulatory agencies, there is a compelling need of adopting new technologies and trends. So without having these new technology trends and all, it is very difficult to someone to understand the change and cope up with the change. It's very difficult to migrate from the existing practices to new practices. In that sense, the quality and regulatory professionals, they must lead the situations in a confidential manner to support and to support the industry in terms of growth and sustainability. So I can refer one quote like, quality is not an act, it is a habit. Basically, in that sense, quality means it is not only producing a 100% purified product or material, right? So the real meaning of quality is to ensure in each and every process, system, and the practice are well followed and well defined. So in that sense, due to this reason and due to the change in current days scenarios, companies need to adopt new technologies and new processes. And obviously, every change, when there is a change, it definitely brings some burden on the company. Then what is the problem? If we talk about the COVID pandemic, so many companies gone through a variety of issues, questioning quality in all of the operations, and many companies struggled with the shortage of manpower and less access of data, shortage of supplies, and many other challenges they faced to continue their business. So I would like to talk about few challenges. They include the lack of efficiency to streamline the process. So when we talk about the efficiency of a system or of a product or of a people, so efficiencies all depends on how best the practices are defined, how best they follow the defined practices, and if there is any deviation or if there is any difference in the practice, how better they justify those changes. So all these things comes under the efficiency of the system. Then lack of transparency in paper-based system, that is one more challenge in terms of digitalization, and lack of resources to identify bottlenecks in production lines. So, and a higher cost of manpower with lesser outcomes. During pandemic, we all know that the manpower, the importance on manpower is very high, and even sometimes in order to sign off a document, they traveled all the way to the companies. Because of there is no access of any digital tools. They traveled all the way to companies, and in order to review a document or in order to sign off a document, they struggled a lot during those times. And inconsistency in terms of operations, which leads to poor quality. So that is one more aspect as a challenge. Then higher chances of human errors due to lack of knowledge and stress. There are many chances when we talk about the paper-based systems. There are many challenges. There is lack of knowledge. How to continue with the manual activities, because there is no guiding factor for them. And obviously, stress is almost on the top of it. And a big question mark on reliability of data. So when everything is on paper, so how our data is reliable and how confident we are on the data side. So that is one more big question mark. And missed promises to customers and the breach of trust, because we committed something to our customers, but because of various other challenges, so many companies, they missed out their promises to reach their customers with that end of the day breach of trust and confidence on the company. So these are few challenges I can talk about. Then coming to what is the solution, we'd like to talk about the solution. The solution is digitalization. So we're talking about the pandemic. At the same time, pandemic is also surfaced out many opportunities in the digital side, right? So would like to talk about the difference between the digitization or the digitalization. So what is the difference between both of them? So if we talk about digitization, it's a true conversion of data from analog to digital. It's only converting data from analog to digital. But what about digitalization? So digitalization gives the complete solution. Like it is a complete transformation from paper-based system to digital platform. So it's a complete transformation means there are many automated systems built in. there are practices are connected. So in other words, we can say digitalization holds the responsibility of capturing data, processing the data, analyzing and reporting to establish data trends, and all these data trends and the visualization of the data, it brings the clear picture to take any kind of better business decisions. Then I'd like to talk about the advantages. There are many advantages with the digitalization. So all these are very well proven in the industry, and organizations may run more effectively when there is a a digitalization in front. Like they can save time, they can save unnecessary expenses, they can improve the quality and efficiency of the operations, efficiency of the people, and they can boost the production. And some of the advantages of digitalization in business, I can talk about, like streamlined processes. So how we can streamline the process? Like see, when there is a system, so when there is a practice is digitalized, so there is no chance of deviating it. So everyone who practice that activity, so they have to follow as defined in the process. There are no deviations. If there is any deviation, obviously system finds that there is a deviation, and it will alert to the respective authorities to further in the next levels. So in that sense, everyone will go as per the defined processes, and we can say the process streamline, the streamlined processes can be followed by everyone with the help of digitalization. Then coming to increase the productivity. So how we can increase the productivity with digitalization? So saving time with digitalization is the direct conversion of productivity. Like when you save some time in testing activity, when you save some time in material movement, when you save some time in getting approvals from the various production lines to start your production. So all these factors ultimately converts the reduction in cycle times. It ultimately results to improvisation in the productivity. So reduced operational costs, like in manual systems. So if it is everything manual, so one has to go and verify each and everything. So in that sense, there is a lot of burden on the manpower, and there is no efficient or effective data to review, or there are no effective checks in place. So if everything is on manual, everything will be dependent on that particular person. So if we go digitalize, okay, so we can automate the processes without human interventions. We can do some of the activities. We can reduce the redundant activities. No? So that way you can also save some cost from the overall operational point of view. Then improve the transparency. So obviously, if everything is on digital, so there are no chances to manipulate anything if it is on paper. So one can easily try to do something with the paper, because they have freedom to do anything with the paper. But if it is with the system, if it is with the digital data, so there are so many controls. Like there are audit trials, secured audit trials. Even some systems, they won't allow people to do any kind of manipulation, because there are checks designed in such a way that so one cannot delete any data, one cannot modify any data without any further approvals from the authorities. That way, we can say whatever data we have in our electronic systems, those are completely transparent and trustable data. We can say it's a trustable data. Then high degree of quality and consistency. When we talk about the quality and consistency, how we can achieve these things, this quality and consistency with electronic systems. So just give me a second. So how we can achieve the quality and consistency with the electronic systems? Because as we discussed, the quality means it is not only a product, it is material quality, or it's not material quality, then quality of operations. Then I will take one example, like every company, they have to do the vendor evaluation on a periodic basis. I'm just taking it as an example. So for this activity, so we have to collect all the data of suppliers and the quality of the supplies they produced, and how vendor is consistent in terms of supplies and time frames they agree. So all these factors we have to ensure for the better evaluation of any vendor. So if you see the scenario, if it is in manual, so it is a tedious job for anyone to collect the kind of huge data, and they have to analyze and basing on the data, they have to decide whether the supplier is compliant or not. So if you see that difference in digital era, like system can ensure the consistency of supplier every time they supply a consignment. And at the same time, whenever you test that particular lot, the quality of material with every lot can be ensured on time. And when they supplied it, it also gives the consolidated trend at the end of the year. So no other person needs to work on separate basis to take the data, analyze the data, and do the trending for the better evaluation of a vendor. If it is everything in the system, so system does everything. Like in that sense, we need to wait for someone to collect the data, so present the data, but quality is ensured every time, right? So if it is in the digital platform, so these kind of activities are consistent in manner, and the quality is verified in every stage, in every step of the process. That way, so system will give you the better visibility on operations, better visibility on materials, better visibility on people's activity. So in that sense, we can say quality and consistency will be at at high level when you are using digital applications. And better compliance, like definitely all these factors leads to the better compliance in the operations, and encouraged employee participation. Like nowadays, every one of us are more acquainted with the digital tools. We have all mobiles, we have tabs, we have systems, everything. But when it comes to pharma operations, if you give pen and paper to them, like if you ask them to fill the bundles of papers, then it's a kind of there is no encouragement to the peer team. So instead of that, if you provide all the digital tools, right, and if you give the all kinds of visibility on the data they process it, so on a single click they can get to know what is happening with their activity. So in that sense, they participation in the activity will be very high in terms of if you ask them to do it on paper. So definitely there is a kind of encouragement to each and every employee who are working with us. Then when it comes to accuracy and perfection for the better decision making, it's all about data. We are talking about data. So when the data is from the various digital platforms, because of various checks built in the applications. So the data is refined there and then when the data is generated, right? And it also consolidates the data. It gives the positive or negative direction of the operations. So it tells upfront, like, how we are progressing with our activities. If there is a non-compliance, it gives the alert. If there is a progress in our operations, it gives the indication saying that, our performances are at a high level. So whatever decisions we want to make it, so that we can make it through our data on hand. Then superior customer satisfaction. So customer satisfaction is all required in every industry. It's not only about pharma or life sciences, but customer satisfaction is very much important in any industry. But how we get that customer satisfaction? We have so many, commitments to the customers. There are some time-based commitments. There are some kind of, quality commitments. So all these commitments, when we can ensure that, we are delivering everything as per the standard. So when you have data on hand, when you have, what to be delivered and what is the quality to ensure to respond to a client. If you have data on hand, definitely we can ensure every time when we go to the customer. So that way customer also feels very happy if you submit within the time frame, if you submit the quality data. So that gives the more trust on your operations. That way we can achieve superior customer satisfaction. So am I clear in this sense, or
No, you're perfect. You're perfect on the lines. Sure, sir.
fine, sir.
I appreciate that you have spent good amount of time on slide 4 and slide 5. I think that is the crux of it. I think definitely it will take to the next slides and all. Definitely it will be helpful to all our viewers and all. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Then I would like to talk about the barriers to go to digital transformation. So it is not about choosing to transform, because nowadays it's not an option to choose the digital transformation, but how we are progressing with our for the future demands, how we are ready to take the challenges of future demands. So I have seen many companies from the small level to the large level of companies. I have seen there are many companies opted the digital transformation, but I have seen that it's not only the right set of tools what we use in the digital transformation, but at the same time how we implement and how we take them into priority, that gives a more value add and to make a success of any digital implementation. So I have listed the top 4 level of barriers where the companies are lagging with. If you talk about the small companies, first of all, there won't be any IT roadmap for them, because what to implement, how to implement, and what are the systems to be in place. So that is one roadblock for them, because there is no IT roadmap for the future. And lack of expertise. When we talk about the small companies, obviously there is a challenges with respect to manpower. So lack of expertise is also one problem I can see. And there are no IT budgets as well. They cannot spend huge amounts of budgets on this making digital. And skilled resources is also one more factor. Even though they implement something, obviously they cannot cope up with the activities. That is the major lacking in the small companies. But when it comes to the medium companies, yes, majority of the medium-sized companies, they are opting the digital platforms because of various factors like nowadays each and every auditor is asking to implement some kind of digital tools. So because they know that how these digital tools help them to make them transparent, make them ready with the data, and make them ready with the challenges. But when you see the medium level companies, majority companies are lacking with the involvement. They take the applications, they take the digital platforms, but they never spend the required time to implement the applications. That is one major disadvantage because every company nowadays, every company are busy with their audits, and they are giving least preference to this kind of initiatives. That is the reason some of the initiatives or some of the implementations are gone. They are facing a lot of struggle to implement this kind of systems. And again, limited IT budgets. They can start with something, but they cannot fulfill the complete need of the industry. And then employee attrition, like nowadays employee attrition is very high. So whenever there is a change in the the current employee positions, obviously they face a lot of struggle during implementation of these applications. Then employee pushback. This is one more major drawback. First of all we are very comfortable with the paper-based systems. When you implement a new thing, obviously, I feel like where I can find my ways to do my own kind of activities. That is the reason majority people, majority employees, they push back the implementation by making some comments on the applications or by making some comments on the company. So their end result is to push back the implementation so that there will be more comfortable on the paper. So when you see the large companies, they don't have any barriers with respect to IT budgets. They implement a lot of applications. If you see, I can refer one company like they implemented almost 18 to 20 different applications. But what is the challenge? Like all these are disconnected systems. So when you don't integrate between the applications or between the systems, then there it creates another problem kind of thing, like redundant activities. If the data is not transformed from one system to another system, then again it is a repetitive of the task. So these kind of disconnected systems I can see in majority of the companies. And employee pushback is also one thing, like even in bigger companies also some sort of employee pushback, pushing back these kind of implementations. Then limited expertise, because bigger companies obviously they go for the international systems kind of applications. So the expertise on those systems, how to implement them, how to use them, that is a challenge. Then difference in expectations, like all the bigger companies, they are from the various experiences. They expect something more than what they see in the application. So because of all these differences and all, some sort of applications are often struggling to succeed. So these are few examples I can discuss in terms of barriers in coming to options. Like what are all the options we have? There are so many options as on today. There are so many applications are well designed by various industry people. Like if you see materials and purchase, since long back we have ERP systems, enterprise resource planning, and there are material management and inventory control systems are also there. And as we rightly discussed, the QR coding system and the trace and tracking systems are enforced by the government authorities from January 1st onwards. So all these systems are speak about the material management. But how these material management systems are important. Like we can say, whenever there is a material received, so how to verify them, how to inspect them, how to test them, and if there are any discrepancies, how to address them. So all these things we can automate through the process, so that whenever there is a discrepancy in the activity, so it will automatically notify to the respective quality authorities. So here the quality is integrated with the system. It's not about only making entries in the application or the screen. It's on the top of it. Digitalization brings that value, it creates the complete ecosystem. Like whenever there is a process is linked with the other element, like the quality is linked with all the associated functions. This quality is not independent. So we have to see the quality in materials. We have to see the quality in production. We have to see the quality in engineering activities, such a way that quality is integrated with everywhere. Then when we talk about the production processes, we have again ERPs. We have kind of production planning and control systems. We have EBMR kind of solutions to implement. So all these kind of implementations definitely reduce your cycle times, give the transparency more on your data, and it saves a lot of time for making, documentation and many other necessary activities. So when it comes to analytical or quality, so there are LIMS applications, laboratory information management systems, and electronic lab notebooks, and scientific data management systems, and the sample management systems. So all these systems supports the quality testing activities. So nowadays, LIMS applications are giving more value add to the industry by reducing the cycle times in testing. That way, we can also reduce our product go-to-market strategies, and we can save a lot of time in terms of digital practices. Then quality assurance, we have all kinds of QMS elements, quality management systems. You have change mechanisms, change control mechanisms. You have deviations. You have change kappa, and there are many other QMS elements are well defined nowadays with these electronic systems. Then when it comes to regulatory, we have ECTD applications. So in order to submit the common technical documents to FDAs and few other regulatory agencies, we have well-defined ECTD applications. Similarly, if we talk about the engineering and maintenance activities, there are some sort of applications are also there for the engineering. CMMS, like computerized maintenance management systems, engineering and maintenance management systems. So all these systems supports a lot to better maintain all your instruments, equipments, their preventive maintenance. So all kinds of calibrations and equipment utilization times. So using these systems, you can better identify what are all the bottlenecks in your production lines. Which equipment is creating bottleneck for your entire process. So these kind of enablers we can find it through electronic systems. Then you have document management systems. Nowadays there are so many document management systems are available, but these document management systems, how we integrate with the other systems, like these document management systems, we can integrate with quality, we can integrate with the learning management systems. So we can create a kind of ecosystem, building all these applications in one place, so that we can create much awareness with the activities. Then we have training and learning management. So all kinds of training, like from the day one the employees join, since from the induction training, their on-the-job trainings, their self-learnings, everything can be tracked down to training management systems. And these training managements, again, they are interlinked with the other applications as well, because if you talk about the LIMS system, so in LIMS activity, if the analyst is qualified for a particular technique, then only they are supposed to do the testing activity. But in order to qualify those analysts, and that comes under learning and training activity. So if we integrate these two systems, so that the system can ensure that the right people are going for the activities, the right people are doing their job with the complete training and self-learning. So we can ensure like that. Then we have some of the applications called audit management systems. So you can track down each and every observation from the various auditors listed, and for each and every observation, you can give the responses to them within a proper time manner. So system enables to give you some kind of alerts, in order to give the proper response within the agreed timelines. So all these things you can well manage with the audit management system. So there are various kinds of audits we have. We have internal audits, we have quality audits, we have regulatory audits, we have supplier audits. So all these things, all these audits you can manage through audit management systems. Then there are other formats like electronic recording formats and all, or digital recording and monitoring systems. Let's say, for example, in the pharma space, we have to monitor in all the labs and in all the clean rooms. We have to monitor all kinds of trending of temperatures and humidity control. So all these things should be well in defined time limitations and well within the specifications, we have to say. So all these things we can monitor through digital. Instead of putting manpower to record them on manual things. So we can adopt new digital trends, how to monitor them, how to enable the team to better monitor and put the controls for those activities. Then there are if you have all data in place, then the next step is how to analyze the data, how to bring the value to the company. Like when you analyze some data and whether that data is giving you the positive results or negative results. If it is giving positive results, obviously that's the encouragement to the company. If there is any lacking in the process, if there is any lack in the process, or if there is any discrepancies in the data, so obviously you can identify with the ease of data tools, and you can correct them with the proper corrective and preventive measures. Similarly, in sales and marketing, you have CRM applications, customer relationship management applications, in order to give the proper responses to your customers. So you have all these systems in place. Then how digitalization helps to achieve quality and regulatory compliance. Then the first thing is automated practices. It helps to achieve consistency in operations. We already talked about how we can achieve the consistency in operations with the help of digital tools. Then real-time data, as I rightly mentioned sometime back. So you will have the data on hand online, like every time whenever you want to see some data. So with a click of a single button, you will get everything on your hands. So that is again with the greater transparency. You can completely depend on the digital data. So why? Because while capturing it, we put some controls. So if there are any discrepancies, then system identifies and it goes an alert to the respective authorities. So electronic data capture saves time in drafting and error-free data. So instead of giving pen and paper to the team, so to fill something on the papers. So if you give the digital interfaces, so digital interfaces again some kind of spell checks and everything. It automates the spell checks and some kind of controls also. If you wrong select some option, system gives you an alert that this is the wrong option you have selected. That kind of controls also we can build in with some kind of applications. Then process automation. So along with this data and all, so we can also automate the processes. You can automate your machineries with the digital platforms, so that data will be automatically seamlessly transformed from instruments to your digital systems. So digital monitoring. So as I rightly mentioned, real visibility and operations for the better mechanism, better view, better review mechanism. You can also review with the ease of data availability. Then digital assurance, accurate, precise, and high quality and dependable reporting. So every time you generate some kind of data, so that will be precise and accurate, so that you can generate what kind of data report you want to present to your customers and everyone. So automated alerts. Because of these automated alerts, there are less chances of human errors. Like let's say, for example, if you talk about the stability monitoring, so there are no chances that one can miss out from the defined schedules. Likewise, if there are any calibration schedules of a particular instrument or equipment, so system enables the users with a kind of alerts so that no one can miss out from any tasks. Then ease of data access, like during audit times, auditors ask so much of data to present. So with the help of all these systems, so one can easily pull the data from the system, and they can present with a much more confidence in the data. Then there are few other benefits like electronic signatures. There is no need of doing any manual signatures. Data retrieval, it is fast and accurate every time. Integrated systems, so eliminate repetitive and redundant activities. Like we can integrate between applications so that it gives more value add towards the digital activities. And the data analytics, trending, summary, and key indicative performances also we can identify from the data. Then electronic records, no chances of manipulation or misuse, and we can also reduce the paper. Then systemic communication, like the real-time updates, alerts, and reminders. It gives the well preparedness to the employees. Someone should not miss out anything. Then data accessibility, like secured remote access from anywhere in the world. You can access your data. You can take the action on a particular activity by reviewing respective data, and you can every time you will be having your data on hand wherever you are. Then what are the steps to follow for making digital? These are the implementation practices. How best we can implement a system. First of all, we have to plan and define the expected outcomes. So what exactly we are expecting in terms of digital transformation, we have to be very clear about what is required for the time. Then we have to generate user requirements. A well-defined user requirement specifications gives more value in terms of what you get end of the day. Then select and qualify digital partners who are all the vendors in the market. You have to qualify them. You have to select them for the right appropriate tool. And you have to design, develop, and test the application. So obviously, vendors will do all these kind of activities, like they design the application according to the company's requirement. They develop and they do the testing part. Then install, test, and accept. So when it comes to the client side, they have to install the application. They have to test the application, like SIT, FAT. There are different kinds of testing activities are planned, and someone has to give the acceptance to go ahead for the qualification. So we have to qualify all these applications. So in order to qualify these applications, we have subjects called CSV and CSA. We can discuss in the next slides. And we have to implement the software. After implementation, someone has to verify and evaluate the software, whether it is meeting your intended purpose. So like that, this is the entire life cycle we have to ensure for any kind of digital tool implementation. There are few examples of digital applications. There are secured login pages for every activity. So these secured credentials, through secured credentials, someone can log in and they can access the applications. And there will be some kind of configurations. So nowadays, all applications are more configurable in terms of various requirements. So there will be some kind of master activities, and there are interfaces to connect between applications. So all these things are well defined. And these screens are some kind of interfaces. Examples how to make the entries. There are some activities are auto pulled by the various other tools, and some of the controls are enabled for them to select what is required for them. So these are few examples. So I would like to talk about the CSV part. CSV is basically stands for computer system validation. So it is to achieve and maintain compliance with the applicable GSP regulations. For every software implementation, we need to ensure whether the CSV is delivered in appropriate manner. So the meaning is like the adoption of principles, approaches, and life cycle activities with the framework of validation plans and reports, and the application of appropriate operational controls through the life cycle of the system. So whether all controls are properly enabled, all controls are properly delivered to the end user or not, we have to ensure by using various steps involved in the CSV. The traditional computerized system validation process was conceptualized prior to the current technology evolution, because these CSV standards are defined long back when when there is a better involvement in the technology part. So nowadays, the industry, the regulators are coming up with the new concepts called CSA, which is Computer System Assurance. It is top of the CSV activities. The current CSV activities are most on the documentation part. So we have to document each and every test scenarios, each and every case. We have to study, and we have to test each and every parameter. And in order to complete the CSV, so we have to make sure the quality and the subjects are delivered as required by the end user. So when it comes to CSA, the critical thinking is taking more part than documentation. So you can document less and you can test less, but the critical thinking on the various important aspects are high, and we have to make sure the assurance levels on the critical thinking. Like for example, if you take login screen is not very critical. Every application carries the login screen. In CSV, the standards and the steps are equivalent to all the scenarios you have to test it. When it comes to CSV or CSA, so the standards are defined like such a way that where the criticality of the application is involved. Like for example, if you take LIMS application, the criticality is involved when you are calculating some result, or when you are presenting some, or when you are presenting or when you are declaring a result. So that is the major criticality area in LIMS application. There we have to stress out more, and we have to do the lot of testing instead of putting time on this kind of logins and logouts. Okay, so that is where the critical thinking is involved in the new CSA concept. Now it is under draft phase only. So once the guidelines are clearly defined, so we have to go with the new CSA approach. Then we have GAMP guidelines, good automated practices. Earlier in GAMP 4, there are total 5 guidelines are defined, 5 categories are defined. Now in the new set of GAMP 5 guidelines, there are 4. So the category 1, these are standalone softwares. So like infrastructure software, including operating systems and all. So you don't need to test anything, because with a single click of a button, you can install the software and you can use it, like our Windows operating system and all like that. Then coming to category 1 or 2, both are same. Category 3 is non-configurable software, including commercial off the shelf. So these systems are commercially off the shelf, and you can use the applications like in a plug and play. So some kind of applications comes under this category where there is no need of any kind of customization of the configuration. Then category 4 speaks about the configuration softwares. Like LIMS systems we can configure, the SCADA systems we have to configure. So these kind of configurations we have to do in the applications. Those are comes under category 4. For the category 4, the qualification efforts are more when compared to category 1, 2, 3. So we have to do all kinds of CSV efforts. We have to follow all kinds of CSV steps for category 4 and 5. So coming to category 5, it is, I can say is more critical in terms of implementation, because these systems are bespoke and tailor-making products. So when there is a requirement from a customer, so someone has to develop them from the scratch, because which are not configurable, which are not readily available software. So those kind of softwares, the qualification efforts are more. The importance on qualification, the thinking on risk factors are more. Okay. So coming to validation deliverables, you can see all these are 15 deliverables are there. So initial risk assessment as per GXP. So we have to do as a kind of GXP assessment on the applications. Then user requirement specifications. So someone has to design these user requirement specifications for the better clarity on what they want to get out of from the implementation. Then vendor assessment or the supplier assessment. Similar like our supplier qualifications, we have to do the vendor assessment. Then functional requirement specifications, how system functions that we have to draft in to functional requirement specifications. Then configuration of the design specifications of the design qualification. So this is also very much important in order to implement any software. So what the system design speaks about, how it delivers, how it communicates with other systems. So all these things will be well captured in the design qualification activity. Then validation plan. So how many times you have to validate, and what are the methodologies you have to use in the validation. So all these things you have to keep it in the validation plan. Then factory acceptance testing before deploying any application to at client side. So first of all, we have to test whether the software is developed according to the given requirements or not. We have to test them, and then we have to take the site acceptance testing. So the SAT is carried at when customer side. They have to test the application before they go for the qualification activity. Then functional risk assessment. Each and every function in the application, so gives some sort of advantage. At the same time, what are all the disadvantages? What are all the risk factors involved within each and every function? So we have to well define in the risk assessment part, and we have to assess the functional risk assessment. Then installation qualification, like our instruments and equipment. So we do the installation qualification the same way. We have to install the applications for the servers. How many servers we have? Application servers, data servers, database servers. So backup servers. So all these servers we have to qualify through installation qualification. Then operation qualification. How exactly the system or an application performs. How the application performs the intended purpose. So all these things we have to test through various test scenarios and test cases. So ultimately it results to performance. So how best the system is performing, like through performance qualification, one can verify the system functionalities, and they can ensure that the system is meeting their requirements. Then requirements traceability matrix. So right from URS, user requirements, whether those requirements are properly converted to digital platform or not, whether they're tested, whether they're qualified in terms of qualification activities. So we can trace everything through requirement traceabilities. Then validation summary. So after completion of your validation activity, we have to summarize them, whether the system is meeting to the intended purpose. Then system release certificate or the software release note. Once this is done, then companies can go ahead with the using those systems. So this is about my explanation about the digital tools. So I'd like to ask the team if there are any questions or whether I have covered all the things or not. So if you have anything in your mind, please feel to go on to them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nagadharji, for the elaborative presentation on the various tools being used by the industry at different stages, right? I mean, in the entire supply chain of the pharmaceuticals, right from the initial material management, the production, the operations, the quality controls, and the man management, the training activities, and even the audit activities, everything. You've given an elaborative presentation, and I'm sure the participants must have had a fair sense of how the digital tools are enabling the industry to run in a smoother way and in a quicker way, and of course with a less intervention of the manual errors. Certainly, it gives a value added advantage to the industry and also to the auditors as well. So we'll open the floor for the questions, and I request the participants to post your questions in the Q&A tab. And if anybody wants to have an interactive discussion on any specific element of the presentation, you may please raise your hands and we will be happy to take you onto the screen for a discussion. Sir, a small question from Mr. Shaktivel about how to bringing up the basic change in the small scale industry. I think this is a systemic nature of the industry size, and perhaps would you like to add something for this?
Yeah, Mr. Shaktivel, thank you so much for your question. Like how to bring up a basic change in the small scale industries. So it's not about the small and large. Basically, the digitalization is required in every industry, in every size of the company. But where we start that activity, like digitalization is not happened in one day or 1 year. It's a long journey. So we have to choose where is our critical area of implementation. Like if you feel that your documentation is the critical area for you, or if you feel that your quality management systems are critical area for you, or if your production processes are critical for you, like you have to identify where to start. So with that sense, we can adopt some kind of technologies which are openly available in the industry, and so using these applications, the change you expect is first of all consistency in terms of your operations, consistency in terms of your documentation, consistency in terms of your quality practices. So all these things may not give you an immediate result, but over the period, if you see the data on digital platforms, after one particular year, if you see your data, so you can visualize how much of progress you made with the digitalization. That way, you can progress with the next phases. Like you can cover a few more areas of your activities. That way, you can connect these systems. But at the same time, I would like to stress more about the connecting systems. If you implement too many different systems without having integrations or without having connected systems, so obviously, end of the day, it creates new problems to you to maintain these different kinds of systems. So we have to build a complete ecosystem. Even if you take a small set of activities, you can see how best we can implement the systems in that particular area. and what best results it is, delivering to your problems or issues. Then based on that, we can adopt the new systems as well. That way, you can progress.
Thank you, sir.
I hope I have given the clear answer to you.
We believe you have given a clear way ahead for the small scale industries to slowly progress in the terms of the digitalization for the benefit of their own upgradation of the facilities. I think even Shaktivelji has also well convinced with your answer and his message.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
There is a question from Mr. Balakrishna regarding the category 2 of the GAMP. Is there any specific reason for the removal or the merger of the category 2 with category 1? So could you please elaborate on that, sir?
It's not removed basically in the GAMP 5, in the recent GAMP 5 guidelines. The category 2 was submerged with the category 1. And because both the categories resembles the same outcome, so it merged, and finally they made it only 4 categories to implement.
Thank you. So, for the benefit of the participants, could you please more elaborate on the GAMP guidelines? Of course, for me, it's new to me, and I'm not sure about the audience. So, I mean, which agency regulates or publishes these GAMP guidelines? Or is it a common guidelines to be adopted by any of the software application provider dealing with the pharmaceutical? Is it like that, sir?
These guidelines are defined by ASP. ISP defined, GAMP guidelines, good automated manufacturing practices. So these guidelines are, designed where the digital implementations are going on. So we have to follow those GAMP guidelines in order to implement or in order to, continue with the applications or the digital systems.
Okay.
So ISP is the one they publish these guidelines.
So for any software being implemented, so they need to comply with these GAMP
Yes.
guidelines. Any additional questions? Feel free to please post in the Q&A.
May I, Lakshmi?
Yeah, please, sir.
Ravi sir, I think it's very well elaborated presentation consisting of almost like 20 plus slides, I believe. Your last slide is keep it simple and short. Yes, I'll try to do that with respect to the question. In fact, in the beginning, I have asked for that. What are the kind of cost involvement if an MSME or some other, any other company, if you want to go ahead with a not in the standalone kind of a thing, if it is wants to go in a big bang once for all the kind of options we have tried to elaborate, that these are the things which are available for digitalization and all. So can you elaborate on some of those things and all? Can you throw some light on that?
You're talking about how best we can implement the various kinds of applications to the MSME segment, right?
Yes, sir.
The
cost is, in fact, that seems to be one of the challenging for everything when you are talking about the change from the human dependent to the system dependent.
Correct, sir. Yeah. See, when it comes to the cost factor, nowadays there are many providers in the Indian market, and with very comfortable size of the applications we have, and you have wide range of applications as well. You can cover the entire complete GMP cycle, GMP manufacturing. You can cover with the applications. You have applications right from materials management, production processes. You can implement the softwares in production. You can implement the softwares in warehouse. You can implement the softwares in quality control, quality assurance, engineering. So all these systems we can automate. The basic GMPs are covered in these major 5 departments, I can say. So if you take the product life cycle activity, it's majorly involved in between these 5 departments activity, right? Any company, any manufacturing company, it depends on all these major 5 departments. Yes. And the GMP is also very much involved. in all these 5 departments. So when you talk about the digitalization, so if you implement only a piece of application in warehouse, where if it doesn't communicate with other functional areas, obviously the activity will be limited. But if you see the complete ecosystem of the process, covering all these major 5 departments, then any company can get the benefit out of these digital applications. But at the same time, so one cannot really implement or make the change in one stretch, having all these implementations in one place. So obviously that should be in a phased manner. So we have to ensure like that, and we have to adapt the new technologies by getting the results and getting the benefits of it.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, what is the kind of a cost thing which is involved in that one? Involved in that, if you can give some fair amount of an idea of how much it will be for any industry, I'm not talking about the size of the industry.
Yes, sir. Nowadays the applications are ranging from 10 lakhs also, 10 lakhs to almost more than a crore also. There are applications. At end of the day, so which area we are targeting? Like you are targeting the complete paperless. Obviously, it costs more to a company. And when you start with it's nothing required to go everything in one single phase, right? So we can slowly adopt this. Like we can put our budgets on a yearly basis, or maybe on quarterly or half-yearly basis, and we can bring one system into place, see the benefit out of it, then expand it to the further, so that our costs also will be diversified over the period.
Yeah, as you rightly said, I think the unnecessary cost will come down. Naturally, your IT budgets, you can plan it for the next quarter, whatever it may be.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions, sir? Lakshmi, I think
yeah.
you can take.
Yeah, moving on. There is a simple statement from Mr. Shashidhar. It's not even a statement. It seems they're willing to understand more about the ECTD related regulator requirements. Of course, I mean, the ECTD format is the one which is being widely accepted by the stringent regulatory authority, be it FDA or EDQM, and the companies are bound to submit their dossiers in the format. But how could the software applications or the systems could help the industry to comply with the ECTD norms? Can you just elaborate some more idea on this, sir?
Yeah, I have very limited knowledge on ECTD applications, but I can tell you something like these applications, they supports to submit the regulatory filings to the various regulatory authorities, because in order to submit any data to any regulatory authority, we need to follow some set of standards, and we need to build in some controls in our documentation activity, and we have to follow some certain guidelines. So all these guidelines will be built in the ECTD kind of application, so that whenever you submit something, initially system can give you the kind of message saying that whether it is compliant to your regulatory submission or not. So that way you can ensure whatever data you submit to the authorities prior to submission, you can make sure everything is going in well-defined manner.
So it's a kind of a pre-check at the institution level before submission to the regulatory authority. Thank you so much, sir. And another question from the same gentleman, Shashidhara, on QSA. I think he needs to have some more idea and some more elaboration on the QSA aspects.
Okay. So may I ask Mr. Annappa, what is QSA?
I believe in the presentation we talked about CSA, CSV terminology, but even I do under QSA. Mr. Shashidhara, can you please elaborate what exactly quality system assurance?
Okay. So quality system assurance, like whenever you implement any application or any software, so how it delivers your results to your intended purpose or the requirement. So in order to ensure the system quality, so there are some kind of pre-checks in terms of CSV approaches. So when we follow the complete CSV life cycle, so one can ensure that the designed system is giving the quality outcome. In that sense, whatever the applications being implemented and the practices we followed through our CSV and CSA approaches. So once those are delivered to the in a right direction, so we can say our system quality is is fulfilled.
Thank you, sir. And I think many of them are not, like we could not see much of the questions either they have completely understood or probably it looks so new to them and not in a position to understand the concepts, perhaps, so we can presume in that way. Sir, I would like to also take this opportunity to have a couple of questions from my side, just to understand how, of course, nowadays the cybersecurity is one of the major challenges that the entire industry, not just the pharma, is facing. And even we have seen the big giants have faced some of these threats in the past couple of years. So from a technical point of view, and you being involved in this industry for so long, so how could you foresee the special measures that the industry need to take to be away from these kind of threats?
Yes, sir. So when we are talking about the cyber security, so here there are two factors we have to discuss. So majority implementations are on-premise implementations, and some implementations are going into cloud. So when it goes to cloud, the entire company's data will be on cloud. And if there is any, some kind of, cyber security threats and all we have, so those systems are to be, well maintained by the service providers, where we install the, cloud applications. So when it comes to our local environments, like wherever we implement on-premise applications, so on-premise deployments, so it is the responsibility of companies. They have to ensure the proper firewalls, the proper internet security controls are in place, and their IT systems are well maintained, and they are monitored on a periodic basis. So like how we ensure the banking sector from not to impact with any threats. The same way we have to give the importance to our data, and we have to take all the preventive and the control measures in terms of cyber security. So end of the day, there is a threat always. We cannot really avoid that threat, but how best we prepare. So that is the one thing. So there are measures also, like so we can have backup systems. We can have some kind of filters, so where we can not to publicize our data into various platforms. So that way you can ensure that something is assured, but not 100%. So obviously, in the coming days, definitely we expect our cybersecurity laws and are more stringent, going stringent. So we'll see. We'll go for the best.
So, I mean, can we sense in a way that if an institution adopts a cyber security, like a cloud-based solutions, will there be any major threat for the cybersecurity issues instead of a server-based solutions for all of those facilities? I mean, of course, we are new. We are not very much tech-related officials, so we are just curious to understand on these aspects.
No, see, if it is in public, the threat is more, the percentage of threat is more when compared to the local area networks. So, but where you, host your applications in cloud. So, like, nowadays, the bigger players like Amazon and Microsoft and Google, these, the major players are coming into the cloud. So when we host our applications in the major with major vendors, obviously their security measures are well defined, and there is less chances of threat. But if you opt any local providers, who are not very well established in the cloud environment. So there are chances are more. But if you see our local on-premise applications, on-premise deployments, so it is a complete responsibility of the IT department of that particular company. They have to ensure whether proper firewalls controls are established.
I think there is a add-on question by Mr. Sektuvel on this aspect. That Cloud Security Alliance perspective is involved in the GAMP guidelines or not? Is there any specific mention on this Cloud Security Alliance by the GAMP guidelines, sir?
I think there is one more question on the top of it. Motor systems is the application used
I picked up since it's related to the conversation. The discussion what we are going to have, what we are having now.
Cloud Security Alliance's perspective involved in GLB GAM guidelines. I don't think the cloud security and all are not part of GAM guidelines.
Okay. I hope it answers Mr. Sektuvel's question. And coming back to this, Shashidhara's another question regarding the application being implemented by Motor System for monitoring the PPIIC, QA, CSV, etc. related activity. So shall there be any regulatory compliance can be done with the implementation of these systems? That's what his question seems to be.
Obviously, see, every system implementation supports, is a kind of, quality improvement in your area. Like, so what kind of tools you are choosing, that is one major factor it depends on. Nowadays, systems are coming up with built-in controls, built-in control mechanisms, rather just simply converting the analog data into. That is the reason I mentioned you what is the difference between digitization and the digitalization. So, what kind of tools you are opting and how better controls those tools are providing, it all depends. Yes, end of the day, definitely all these systems and the data supports to the regulatory and quality compliance.
May I, Lakshmi?
Yes, please, sir.
Sir, now that you have discussed about the, I think Lakshmi has already snatched my point with respect to cybersecurity. I will just add another one to that. Is now that the industry, as you said, that it will now it has to depend on the service providers like an entrepreneur like you, an young entrepreneur like you, for these kind of digitalizations and all. With respect to the data recovery, I think in case of any threats like this and issues and all, because the regulatory compliance ultimately, when you're saying that you are going from a paper to a paperless kind of a thing and digitalization kind of a thing, naturally the regulatory compliance, when we seek a compliance and we seek data and all these things, if there is an issue like this and the data recovery part, is the service provider is responsible and how is responsible and how it can be put into the loop into this one?
Sir, basically the responsibility lies between both of them. It is if it is on-premise, implementation, the entire data storage and the data base, everything will be there with the client side. So customers, our companies, they have to ensure how secure their systems, like their server systems, their security measures, and their maintenance of those servers and all, how we are enabling the users to access those servers. So all these factors comes into the picture, sir. So when it comes to the data backup, like if there is any event happen something, so how best we can bring back our data. So we need to have a proper backup mechanisms in place. I can say mirror backup facility should be in place for all these kind of applications, because so this data is very much important, because on the top of it we are talking about the data and the data importance. So if we are leaving the security of the data, obviously nothing yield anything. So in that sense, yes, servers maintenance and the security measures what the companies they take and how best they ensure the data is secure, how it is reliable to bring the backup of the data if something is happened. So it all depends on both the parties. Vendor has to support, at the same time customer also equally responsible to secure their data.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Lakshmi, I think some of the questions which are already been answered are
Yeah.
something else. Please go ahead.
I think I couldn't find any other additional questions in the Q&A. And so probably it's time to sum up this session. And I just finally take one quick question in terms of the regulatory perspective. I mean, we are all the regulators and we all always try to see how to
The most of the questions which came today, I think from Satveli is a regulatory officer from Chennai also.
Yeah. So yeah, in that aspect, we are just wondering, is there any external check on the systems, though the companies or the vendors, they take their own measures in terms of implementational aspects. So in terms of a regulatory compliance by an authoritative levels, are there any agencies to monitor these software applications being involved in different sectors?
Yeah, basically, there are no such government authorities to verify these kind of systems, but yeah, it is about during the customer audits and during regulatory audits, they can monitor anything within the application. They can see the applications. They can give some suggestions and comments. I don't think there are separate agencies to verify these applications. It is our complete responsibility. Vendor has to provide the proper quality and delivery of the application, and the customer has to maintain their property in terms of security and the reliability of application. Then end of the day, everything will everything goes to audits. So during the audits, this is the real-time data they have to present to the auditors. So they have to follow the best practices, and that way only auditors or the regulatory people can monitor these systems and they can make some comments. But I don't think any separate authorities are available for this kind of systems.
All right. Perhaps I believe you must have come across some of the audit suggestions or observations by the USFDREU authority in terms of the digital applications. And probably the industry and the service providers might have a rich experience in those aspects also. So with that, we are going to conclude the session, and I request our Secretary General Rajbhanu sir for concluding remarks, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lakshmi. Thank you so much, Ravichandraji, for your exhaustive presentation on a topic which is a current. In fact, it's a current topic for useful for the industry as well as on a regulatory perspective also, and of course the budding pharmacists which are coming in the academia and all those things. In fact, we have covered almost the kind of topics which are relevant to this presentation. The industry perspective, the identifying the problems, the digital solutions, the advantages, the barriers, the options, I think the benefits, and how to go about by stepwise. I think that is, and more so, you have covered a lot with respect in the question and answers. I think you're very so convincing, and definitely they are a sort of eye opener for certain aspects of it. And definitely we have taken a couple of hours of your weekend. Thank you so much for giving this time to us, sir, and being here. We are certainly privileged, and all our viewers are benefited by that. And on behalf of our president, who is not well today, Dr. Jayanta Chaudhary, on behalf of president and all our EC and CC members, and especially for all our members of AAD COC, All India Drug Control Officers Confederation, and our Director General, Honorary Director General, and advisor SW Deshpande. We thank you so much from the bottom of our heart for giving a wonderful presentation, a lucid presentation on this topic. And thank you, Lakshmi, for really coordinating well with Raviji and seeing that this topic goes on air. Thank you once again, Ravichandraji, for your presentation, and we are happy for that. Thank you, Lakshmi.
Thank you so much, sir,
Thank you.
and
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for your kind words. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for your, all the session arrangements and everything. So we sincerely thank each and every member who joined today. Their precious time they spent a lot. Even it's a weekend for you and for us also. Like it's not only the weekend for us. So your valuable time and the patience all the time you shown today. So it's very encouraging for us, a kind of people like it's a great opportunity. I feel like it's a great opportunity. My sincere thanks, and please convey my regards to Uday Bhaskar Garu and the team members. So a big thank to everyone. Sir.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much, sir. And
thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. And also thanks for all the participants for your patient listening. And post this session, anyways, we are going to share the links and the presentations by email to everyone. And so with that, we are saying goodbye to the year 2022 from the Adcock and Adcock Academy. And we are so pleased to have this a sort of a different topic from our routine aspects on these digital technologies. And so with that, we once again say goodbye to everyone, and we'll come up with an energetic session in the next year by our beloved officer, Dr. Ramkishan ji has consented to talk on the recent developments in the clinical trials in India. So we have scheduled a program on 7th January. So I'm going to share the details soon. And with that, I once again take this opportunity to thank Ravichandra ji and Rajabhanu sir and all the participants, and of course special thanks to our guides and mentors, both Uday sir and Deshpande sir and Jayanta ji and all other EC and CC members. So happy New Year and happy Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year, sir, to all of the participants here. Thank you. Nice.